Good morning. Good morning. Thank you to Kina for being extremely supportive, very communicative as far as email. I can appreciate that. Thank you to Delaware Tech. Thank you for everyone being here today. So, this is it. This is my whole presentation. Give it up! Give it up! So, MIH Talent Agency, as you can see, I have a cool little tagline called the College Event Architects. So, everyone's ready for like the cool startup story. It's 2003. Me and my roommate, his name is Clint Saunders, we're in our dorm room at Delaware State University, and we're on the student programming board. First concert we ever did was 50 Cent, and we were like, wow, like people actually get paid to do this? Like how can we get paid to do this? So that summer, I was actually interning at Discover Financial Services. Clint had graduated. We started the business in his mother's kitchen. Still have the first fax machine that we have. It was a little old Epson. And we didn't have a computer at the time, so the first contract that we actually ever had for the business was a contract that 50 Cent was using to book shows because we figured he had money to pay lawyers. We didn't. I literally retyped the whole contract, put our company on there, MIH Talent Agency, and the first school that we ever did an event at was our alma mater, Delaware State University. Again, that was 2003. That's how we started. Just to kind of give you an idea of the access that we have in terms of talent, some of these names you probably know, some of them you may or may not know. As you can see, we really span the spectrum of comedians, musicians, on-air personalities across different genres, whether it's hip-hop, R&B, pop, contemporary. And we've just been able to really build those relationships over the years, just really connecting with people. Just a quick snapshot of some of our current clients. Delaware State University, Georgia Southern University, that's in Statesboro, Georgia, University of North Texas, that's actually right outside of Dallas, Wake Forest, that's in North Carolina, Fort Hays State University, that's in Hays, Kansas, Syracuse, which is in upstate New York, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. We probably all know that college. It's right around the corner. Howard Community College, that's in Columbia, Maryland. Western Carolina University, we actually have to go there tomorrow on a 5:45 a.m. flight. It's pretty close to actually Tennessee. It's like 5 hours. I've never been to Western Carolina before. Channel partners. What I mean by channel partners is we have established relationships with other agencies also. Some of our relationships are direct, like having Beyonce's cell phone number. Nobody believes me. Okay, I don't. I don't have Beyonce's cell phone number. But what you find in the industry of talent representation is some people have agencies, they have managers, they just have different people that actually directly control their career. So we've been able to cultivate those relationships with some of the largest agencies in the world. If you Google the largest talent, a lot of these different companies will come up as far as William Morris, CAA, ICM, Rock Nation, American Program Speakers Bureau, Dream Chasers, Harry Walker Agency. And again, those are just some of the channel partners that we work with. Upcoming tours that we're working on, from a gospel standpoint, something that I'm extremely excited about is Jason Nelson and Jonathan Nelson. These two recording artists are actually brothers from Baltimore. Had actually just did a show with Jonathan. I said, Jonathan, you've never done a tour with your brother? He was like, no, we've never done a tour. I was like, why not? He was like, I don't know. And I said, I think you should. He was like, okay, let's put it together. So we should be actually signing that paperwork this week to be able to launch that tour on college campuses in the fall. Industry speaker series, Billboard 40 Under 40. I always look at being in college and thinking to myself, I want to connect with the people that are actually in the industry that I want to be involved in. So when you look at Billboard, they have a whole list of like the top 40 people, power players in entertainment. So we're taking those people and actually presenting them at college campuses. So students are able, again, to connect with people in their industry to really say, hey, this is what I want to do. And with those relationships, we could get internships. I mean, you have to start the conversation. That's something I'm a firm believer in. So I'm very excited about that. And the Fresh Faces Project is something I'm passionate about also, because you have so many people that aspire to be in the entertainment industry, whether it's an artist, a producer, a manager, an accountant, marketing. So this will actually be something we're doing with Universal Music Group, where we take an unsigned talent, we take someone from the label, we go to college campuses, we have a talent showcase, but also with that we have a business competition along with a workshop where students will just be able to ask different questions about the entertainment industry. Innovation. I fell in love with tech about 10 years ago when I was actually working for Russell Simmons. And when I was working for Russell, it was around the time he was forming Global Grind. So I ended up being really close friends with the Vice President of Business Development. And we had executives coming to the office from like Facebook and MySpace, and I didn't even know what the internet was. I didn't even know what CC meant on an email. I was like, what does that mean? CC, BCC, what, forward? I didn't know any of that stuff. So during that time period, I was like, wow, people are selling domain names. Like www.wash.com is selling for like $500,000. I was like, wow, this is really exciting. And I started to conceptualize it from a standpoint of real estate. So I was fortunate enough to be able to buy these two domain names, concertbrokers.com and venuedirect.com. And just excited about developing these. They're still in the infancy. Please don't go there. Nothing's going to come up, just a forewarning. But we're getting everything together to be able to launch these, because basically what I've done is I've studied a lot of successful business models, and I'm just applying them to an industry that I understand, which is working with colleges and universities. Thank you. Wow, that was better than I thought, in my mind, I hope.
We're glad to hear that. Now it's time for questions from the audience.
No questions.
What? You're not off yet that easy. I brought questions if need be. Who would like to ask James an interesting question?
Brenda.
Welcome back, Brenda.
Brenda's back.
Good morning. James, congratulations.
Oh, thank
so
you.
From a novice thought, a point of view, walk me through a process of someone who would be calling you. Who would be your targeted market?
Targeted market for us on colleges and universities are primarily campus programming boards, along with the student activities office. A lot of times, just depending on the size and the scope of the campus, we'll get individual groups that'll reach out, whether it's the Black Student Alliance or Hispanic Cultural Association, or just the regular campus activities board, and they'll say, hey, we want this speaker, we want this performer, we want this comedian. But for us, where our deep passion is, I realize that the landscape of higher education is changing with increased competition, so every dollar that's spent is important. So whereas you'll get some companies that, if you say, hey, I have $5,000, they're just going to send you a list of people and say, pick from them. Our standpoint is everything at a college campus is really tied into recruitment and retention. And again, with the increased competition like University of Phoenix, where you have very high enrollment, you have websites like Coursera where people are able to take courses now for free. Colleges have to be extremely cognizant of how they position themselves. So we don't look at programming from an isolated standpoint. We really like to sit down and talk with the group and say, how can we design an event that is going to strategically fit into your goals and objectives of what you're trying to accomplish?
Wonderful. So would you talk about your team that works with you and how you're able to, have the presence and the screen you shared with all the colleges and universities?
Right.
And you're headed out tomorrow. Who is the team that's working with you, and how are you training them, or how is that working?
It's very interesting because what we do is we bifurcate responsibilities from the top. So with me, I primarily deal with speakers and I deal with gospel artists. My partner, Clint, Clint's just a totally different person than me. He really deals with like the poets and the performing artists. So most recently, a lot of you probably know a rapper by the name of Meek Mill. So my partner does everything for him. He just had like a sold out concert at Wells Fargo, and we had a sponsorship with Puma, activation, all these things. So from the top, that's kind of like how we're delegated. Now, when you look at the different services that we offer as far as marketing, we have a marketing firm that we use out of Atlanta called Flyers ASAP. Mike is incredible. He designs all of our marketing collateral. He does email campaigns. Our operations manager is actually a young lady who's in law school. Her name is Lauren Collier. I met her at North Carolina State. She's actually in law school right now at Florida State University. And really, a lot of it is us. When we do different shows, sometimes we do have to subcontract out. Let's say if it's production services or security, but it's really labor intensive. When I look at my sent file as far as emails, because that's a lot of the marketing that I do, because it's targeted. So I'll look at, let's say, a Bill Cosby, and I'll research an institution and I'll say, oh, they do a big comedy show every year. So maybe they'll want Bill Cosby. And that's really where a lot of the work comes from. We have an accountant. Thank the Lord for accountants. We work with Tax Chicks. They have an office in Milford, Delaware, so. Can we afford it? Can you, who? You, Brenda? You're my friend? Oh, yeah, the college, we work with budgets from 500. We just did a Lil Wayne show that I'm not too proud of because it kind of went a little, that's why I really don't like the hip hop side of the business. Budgets all the way up to 200,000.
Great presentation, really exciting. I think it's outstanding. But there is a but.
I love the buts. I love the buts.
How do you draw a fence or structure the liabilities around your product or products? How do you basically put a fence around you and what you're doing so that you're insulated?
This is great. So, being an up-and-coming company, you know, we're young, we're trying to figure it out. This was 2006, another Lil Wayne concert. And you can Google it. It was Lil Wayne at Morgan State University. So we're telling the institution that you don't want to use bike racks for crowd control, because if, you know, the people rush the stage or if anything breaks out, they're not really sturdy. And we said you need to use these steel barricades that we use at like all of our major concerts. You know, people, they can't move them. The school said, oh, I mean, we're working with you guys, but you guys are kind of young, you know, we don't really know if you know what you're talking about. Luckily, Clint sends the email. Lo and behold, Lil Wayne throws money into the crowd, the bike racks, a girl gets hurt, she sues everybody. So we're in the lawsuit, Morgan's in the lawsuit. They probably try to put my mom in the lawsuit. I mean, lawsuits, they just put everybody, just whoever can come up with the money. And at that point, we really did not have a good understanding of special event insurance. Like we didn't really know about that product because we were in our infancy, so we were just trying to get checks, just trying to generate some type of revenue. And we were like, wow, things can go bad. This is business and things can go bad. So we ended up working with Pratt Insurance. And with Pratt Insurance, what they do is they actually do an audit of our events and give us a risk and assessment to make sure from a liability standpoint that we're covered. But then also, from a legal standpoint, we always have our lawyers review our contracts because things just happen. So your contracts are actually constantly evolving. And we just had a situation where there was bad weather in Texas. We had a speaker. We had already been paid for it. So the schools, they couldn't really let us know whether they were going to cancel the event or whether they were going to have the event. So we're like, okay, once our talent gets on the plane, at that point, even if you don't have the event, the contract is executed, and you owe us, the full amount of what you have to pay. And lo and behold, he gets on the plane, he gets there, they're having an ice storm in Dallas, they said the event is canceled. But then that too becomes with relationships, because we felt bad, and we actually reduced the amount of money that the school had to pay us. We said, hey, if you just cover, the travel expenses, we're not gonna, just take the money, because contractually, we can. So at the end of the day, it's really about relationships and taking everything on a case by case. But that is an excellent question. Insurance, lawyers, contracts.
You mentioned that you have involvement in poetry, your personal involvement in the matter. Are you familiar with the Jason Taylor Foundation?
I'm not familiar with the Jason Taylor
I
Foundation.
might be able to get you out of the hip-hop business.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Your crowd control inventory that you were talking about, that you have, do you have that on your books, or do you lease that?
The barricades? Oh, yeah, we lease those. We actually have a company that we use out of New York called Atmosphere Productions, and we actually get the bike racks from them. But our physical office is actually in Smyrna, because we do have in-house capabilities as far as sound, staging, and lights. But a lot of times if we're doing a show, we always cost it out, and it could be cost prohibitive, so we may have to outsource. But regionally, a lot of the shows that we do, like Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, we use our own in-house production equipment, but we don't have racks. Yeah, we found that that's something that we still need to outsource.
Do you have regular employees, or do you hire as needed for an event? How do you handle that?
We actually do all independent contractors. So outside of Clint and I, because we're established as an LLC, everything for us is independent contractors.
Any more questions? Okay.
Just one?
Just talk to us and the entrepreneurs in the room about the importance of a POA, plan of action, or business plan. You do have a business plan.
Don't have a business plan.
Talk to us. talk with us.
Oh, gosh, she got me. I don't have a business plan at all. What I can really recommend, though, is when we started the business, we knew that it was something that we wanted to do. So it wasn't rooted in, oh, you're just trying to get paid, or you're just trying to get a check. But what I can tell you is, even though we don't have a specific plan written on paper, we still had a very clear direction of where we wanted our business to go. And that direction was being able to provide services to colleges and universities. So people will say, hey, do you do corporate events? Do you do club events? And if someone called, I mean, we would probably entertain the business, but we knew we wanted to create our lane and our niche. And I think, not to take away from an actual business plan, but you have to continuously iterate in your business, and you have to pivot, and you can't be complacent. And for me, I'm constantly listening to interviews from a multitude of different CEOs. I'm reading, different publications. So you really have to find something that you really and truly love, because at that point, you're just it's gonna feel really not like work. And you're gonna really evolve, and you're gonna grow, and you're gonna continue to meet people, and your business is gonna grow.
You? Russ and I are trying to communicate about when to turn this mic on, so I apologize. We have a class here that's studying business procedures. Okay. And you mentioned accounting a moment ago, and ironically, their next section that they'll be studying is how do the financials play into the business? And I'm not talking about necessarily, where to get the capital, but what information or a bit of advice that you would pass on about financials that they might take away that you've learned through your business?
What I've learned is you want to be nice to everyone because starting a business, you're probably going to have to borrow money from them. Financials are extremely important. For me, now that we're evolving and we're going to build some tech properties and you start thinking about venture capital, and you have to have numbers. So you could go to someone and say, hey, I'm successful, and the first thing they're going to say is, well, let me see your books. If you don't have any books, at that point, it's kind of really it's nothing to talk about. You know, some things are going to be quantitative, like you can come with this great little slideshow. This is actually qualitative, but you're going to need something quantitative, which is actually going to be the numbers in terms of your business. They're going to know profit margins. They're going to know cash flow. So all of those things are extremely important. When you're starting up, of course, a lot of times it can be cost prohibitive in terms of being able to afford an accountant, but there's so many different online resources as far as QuickBooks that you can access to actually start off with the right foundation. And as you continue to grow, then at that point, you're going to be able to employ someone that really understands, that portion of the business.
Anybody else have some questions? Okay.
As you were starting up, some of the agencies and stuff like that, they've all, people have been putting on concerts and venues and events and stuff like that for a really long time. When you were starting up, like what made you look at that market and think that, what made you different, or what made you able to penetrate something that is probably pretty established, it seems?
Right. Great question. The difference that we have is we are on the ground. So our level of customer service, we're very high touch, whereas a lot of these big agencies, a lot of times they won't even come to your show. They'll say, hey, who do you want? Oh, you want Zach Brown? Cool, he'll be there. And they'll just give you a contact, and they're very hands-off. So where we found our competitive advantage was, first we knew that the market was fragmented. There really wasn't a dominant player doing this. It was more local and it was more regional. And then after we found out that the market was fragmented, we looked at how these agencies did business, and we knew how the agencies did business because we were on the student programming board at Delaware State, and we were working with those agencies. So we saw how they were very hands-off, and it was very transactional. It was very just much about, how much money do you have? Like, that was the first question. Instead of, hey, what are you really trying to accomplish? What current issues do you have on your campus that you're trying to address? Really having more of a holistic approach. So at that point, we knew we had a competitive advantage. And I think our competitive advantage has really been rooted in the fact that we care and we're champions of higher education. So we see the picture being bigger than just, oh, let us try to get a check from producing an event on campus.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
James, tell us what the community can do to support you.
Tell everyone I had an awesome presentation. I think to really support us as a company is allowing us to be able to help you. And not just from let me try to bring talent to your event. I think this forum is incredible, where we're just able to share and be transparent and really just establish a real community of business, like-minded people coming together. And it's bigger than business too. It's civic engagement. So I think the community can help. Let's continue to dialogue and have communication and help one another.